Uh, yeah, I had another dream as well, and I was with a group of people, and Duane was there. I've had dreams before when I am with a group of people, and Duane is teaching us. On this occasion, Duane exuded such a presence, it was almost overwhelming, even a little unnerving. On the occasion On the occasions that I've encountered guides through my dreams and out-of-body experiences, they've radiated the same, what I will call intensity of the is. So I thought I'd share this dream, as this is another example of a dream, like others have shared, where Duane is of a great stature, that I think proves and demonstrates his awareness and authenticity.
Was that just the beginning, or is that the end too?
That was it. It was just that really. So it's nice, nice and short one there.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yes, I need all the help I can get here because it's a hard job. All right. So you become a witness. Everybody becomes a witness to what is being done and presented. All I'm doing is simply representing what already is. It's just the isness. And so it's not about the old ideas, the master, the gurus, the kings, the queens, the monarchy, and all that. All this stuff have went by the wayside. This is where years ago I said the days of masters and gurus are gone. Because again, we're all free beings of real light, and we decide how to see this reality. And so it's really in the sharing. We're not even teaching, okay? I don't even use the idea of teaching. And I made an image a few days ago, or this last week with Ava, and that is that we're not even teaching people things. Because that implies, ideas of doctrines, indoctrination, scriptures, all these things. Those are teachings or something in school, etc. You're teaching people, and I don't really see it that way. I see what I'm doing is I'm sharing the best I can the references that I create with the true reality life is. I see there's a difference, you see? Yeah, and so this is kind of how I raised my daughter, and this is how the indigenous people do. You can say, oh, they're teaching their children, but really they're sharing what they know, and they're showing them, what's going on with the environment they're in. There's a difference. So when we go to school, or we hear about the teachings of Jesus or something like that. In other words, these are doctrines of indoctrination is really what they are. That's why I don't really care to use that idea, because then all of a sudden it's like everything else where people become routine and indoctrinated when it's really not that. In other words, we're freer than the birds to see what life is. I see that it's very important not just to analyze it and then categorize it and then think, okay, I know something, I've learned something because I have knowledge, you see. And really, what is knowledge? It's all created out of nothing. And so what is real is the true reality. So that intensity you see or whatever is, yes, it's the focus and the recognition of the isness. That's what it is, and that's the real guides too. And this is the best part, when you see past all of this and you see a real position with this. It is all recognition, and then it's perceiving, and that perceiving part is learning to, you might say, read the reality. You see, I'll put it in that reference. It's just really more than seeing. You learn to read it and recognize it, and that's what I call perceiving with the real universes. So yes, thank you for that, because you become a witness like others, especially like the people that I'm working with on the we're having our adventure with the outer space people and what we're doing and all kinds of situations. So I kind of relate to certain people that are better seers than others, because they can really see these things, and And little by little, you're seeing it too. Now, the average person, let's say an Ekis or somebody like that, or somebody in religion or whatever, they wouldn't see that. You see, they wouldn't recognize that. Yeah, so you're developing your awareness to start to recognize the difference in what's taking place. You see that, Kevin?
Yeah, I can definitely see how it's sort of slowly evolving over time. If I look back to the dreams I had even 2-3 months ago, how the sort of the nature and the way they are have changed. Yes. Okay. Yeah. On a few Skypes ago, Duane was saying how all our desires, fixations, and projections can create actual dimensions and worlds where potentially individuals could find themselves if they aligned and focused upon them, and how the virtual reality and other games are actual dimensions created by the controllers in cyberspace. And this idea sat strongly with me, and I took it with me to my sleep. And I had a dream. In my dream, I was in a world, or a dimension, where individuals were in a computer game, battling dragons and goblins, and in the form of all manner of warlocks, wizards, and swashbucklers. It seemed they were born into this world, almost as though plugged into a virtual reality game at birth. And with creation being a simulation already, they were in a simulation within a simulation, in fact. And, like in computer games, if the dragons smite you, you get to start again. So for them, they had an infinite set of lives in that world. So if one were to say, in our experience, that we have only one life before passing over, they would find this quite incredulous. So based on that, it would seem that all the obsessive, compulsive gaming of recent times has created, through agreed consciousness, actual realms and worlds where an individual might find themselves after this lifetime if they are simply unable to put down that dragon battling controller due to their emotional attachment to the games.
Well, yes, you're right. And the thing is that you look at the computer games and how they've taken over, and they did a lot of studies in the past. We'll just go off of that, okay, the so-called authorities. And I don't know, 10, 20, 30, probably 30, 40 years ago, they were reporting that children with doing these gamings had a lot of psychological situations that they were dealing with. And one of them, they're very attached to the idea because it's set up to become an obsession, just like anything, just like eating candy all day. It's set up to become an obsession. And so, most of the world, I would say, is, you look at people on their cell phones and whatever, and the gaming thing, it's really a hook. I was never interested in it. I saw it. I played a little Mario Brothers with my daughter when we were young, just the mechanical side when it was kind of in its earlier stages. We'd play a little bit, but other than that, and I've known people that they will get into the modern gaming where you pick a character and then you go out on your adventure and do stuff like that and whatever. Well, I've never been interested in it because I'd rather be doing something that makes sense with this world instead of just continuously looking for something to play with. And so, yes, you get locked into that. That becomes a real world, like the first movie of Tron that Disney made. Once you understand what Disney is doing, you'll see why they made those movies. And that was with Jeff Bridges when he was young. And that was, I would say, probably in the 70s, I'm guessing. And that was way ahead of its time, like Lawnmower Man and the other one. There's one more, I forget, Brainstorm with Natalie Wood. etc. And that, I think that was her last movie before she was eliminated here. But yeah, these things are a real hook. This is how they control the masses. And yes, that all goes into the subconscious. It doesn't matter what the surface mind is thinking. It's thinking that it's just a game. Oh, I'm just playing a game. But the subconscious does not differentiate. Okay, so it just takes in the imagery, the sensations, and what's going on with the computerized game, plus all the subliminals that are in it that the conscious mind doesn't see. And so, yes, these kids that are gamers, it creates a huge phobia that eventually, in certain ways, will show up. And it can be to where, they're just in agreement with the distorted structure of the world, and they just want to keep it going. So, yeah, in the games, you can have instantly, you can have a new life. You see, it's very subtle, isn't it? Oh, so you get killed. You kill other things, and again, it's this killing thing is back and forth. And as you do that, and realistically, I'm sure there have been many people on drugs and whatever, and they go kill other people because, again, they just think it's nothing, that it's a game, but it keeps you going back and forth into lifetimes, and this is where they control you also. So you're thinking that, oh, well, I have more lifetimes if I die, and this goes into the subconscious, and so even if the body dies here, the individual is already set up to consider that, well, I have more lifetimes, I can just get into another lifetime, which you can. You can just keep going and going and going, and this is where you're continually under control. So, you decide if you want to mess with this stuff, but it's all black magic. It's all evil black magic is really what it is. Again, do you see the birds doing it? Do you see the animals doing it? See, there is something else to see besides what has been created as a phenomena for us here, but for the most part, most people get caught up in it. And I'm not saying not to do it. It's a choice. This is where you become conscious effect. You decide to do that, but after a while, as you become more aware, the bigger part of life is learning to see how the is-sees and stands real with the is. That becomes everything. You don't need any of this phenomena, but in the meantime, you're playing around with this stuff, and people become addicted to it like they do soft drinks with the artificial sweeteners that are all addicting. They taste really good, but they're all addicting. Then they can't stop, and then all kinds of funny things happen to their body, and they get in, all kinds of moods of depression and discouragement, and many times want to commit suicide because that's just it. And these games are the same way. They're all set up for the demise of the individual. That's really what they're set up for, because as soon as you go in there and you start destroying things, well, you're on your way to your own demise, because it's self-evident everything is cause and effect. So yes, sir, you're seeing, we're constantly seeing what is being created and having to deal with it and making the choice, to make it part of our world or not. But these are many other worlds they're creating cyberspace worlds constantly. They're creating other dimensions constantly because of what people are deciding, and they get trapped in them. And they go from one to the other thinking that, oh, I'm going through different levels of life, when they're really just going through their own phenomena that they've created. And that's very prevalent, especially with this world and all the phenomena that exists and all the agreement that people have made, you see? Yeah, that's a lot. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I've had quite a few sort of dreams like that where I've seen funny little virtual reality, almost computer game-like world. It's quite a common one that I have. I was going to ask a quick question as well. It was about Manchurian candidates, and it is obviously, it is an effective way of creating mind-controlled assassins, but I also think it's a little crude. It does involve physical trauma and interaction that does risk exposure, particularly as the memories return and some of the victims become whistleblowers. As we know too, everyone is subconsciously programmed to agree with the destruction of the world and the all-natural environment, and this programming occurs at a level beyond which most will be aware of. And do the controllers utilize this method of Manchurian candidate creating, or are they unaware of this potentially untapped resource, and it is only Calorm and those controllers positioned in higher life levels that program from there? And would Callum reveal this information of superior assassin creating making to the physical astral level controllers, or is it a strictly need-to-know basis, and he hoards this knowledge from his lesser minions? And it's conceivable, then, that should Callum choose to, could he program a specific individual from this level of life to be an assassin? Or is that infringing too much on free will, and he would suffer the consequences? A risk-free assassin nonetheless, the individual far less likely to understand that she was programmed and at a life level beyond the causal and mental, so no chance of memory recall and exposure or whistleblowing.
Okay, that's a movie, isn't it? Well, the basic idea is that, yes, it's on a need-to-know basis. It's kind of like the agencies are set up. According to your pay grade, you know certain things, and for the most part, those people out there, like the police, parts of the FBI, even the federal governments or whatever, they only know certain things. The bankers, that when you go into a bank and you talk to the tellers, they don't really know the real banking system. They're taught a particular way, and that's all they're to know. And when they're confronted by how the real banking system works, and I've talked to many of them, even the managers or whatever, they don't understand it. They think it's all hocus pocus, because again, the government, even though they create these things, and even though the Callum God creates certain things, etc., doesn't mean it lets everybody else know, because they want to keep people in a position where they are controlled. Because if he lets everybody know everything, it's just like the U.S. government is. That's why they can have a lot of secret stuff, secret documents, secret this. Oh, this is top secret. It seems like, oh, well, just certain people need to know. Well, the reality is that, just like the mind control game that we're under with all the governments, etc., they don't want to let the people know that the people are mind controlled, emotionally and mind controlled, because then all of a sudden, well, which they're seeing already, many people are seeing that, because then all of a sudden they would supposedly have the upper hand. This is what they're thinking because they're afraid. So they've got these so-called little secrets going. And yeah, for the most part, they don't let them out, but there are whispers, there are rumors, etc. And there are people that do see the inside. In other words, they figure it out, you see. And then they become like the whistleblowers, etc., or conspiracy theorists. So they label them like that. That was some idea created by the CIA. They just plant these little ideas out there. It's like, oh, gee, that's conspiracy theory. Oh, you heard that? Oh, isn't that a funny story? Well, we get those all the time. They're just, at the agency here, etc. So these are the mind games they play. And yes, and certain individuals know certain things where others don't. And the Callum God has to trust his minions too, because they sometimes turn on him or they want to take him over, etc. And the Callum God is just a conqueror. He's not a god. He's a conqueror. That's all these individuals are, just like what we see with the governments or whatever in the kings and queens and the monarchy where you are. They're conquerors. They're destroyers. Everything they have, they've stolen. They didn't work a 9-to-5 job to get trillions, etc. They figured out the system, how to steal it from others. That's how they've gotten it, and then they gloat about it because that's all they've got. And so in the meantime, their thrill is to torture others with the mind games and sit in their on their castle walls and watch the people suffer and whatever and laugh about it, etc. It's a big game to them. So yes, you're right. For the most part, most of the populace doesn't know. It just thinks that, okay, this is how it is. I work for this agency or I work at this job, and this is how things are. And, you go home to your little life, your little house and your family and whatever, but really you're part of the human farming. And when they want you or they want your kids, they'll steal them, and all of a sudden, gee, they disappeared. But they were kidnapped and eaten. That's really how this world is. It's human farming. So, yeah, very few people have the courage to even want to know, Kevin. You see, that's the difference. So now that you've come into this, you're going to see where your environment is at, so you can better figure out your situation and decide if you really want to be free and see as a free being, you see, while you're here, and at the same time do something for those that are trapped here, creatively do that. That becomes a real challenge too. Most people just want to be free and get out of here, just like, oh, I just want to get out of here, which I understand, but there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to learn while we're here, and that is the overall view of the isness with the whole of life, not just what the personal self wants. So, yeah, the information is here and there, but a lot of people are discovering it. They're figuring it out, but still, they're still trapped in the matrix, because until they recognize the is and have that access, they're just circulating in creation. They may have the information, like, David Icke is telling people about reptilians. Again, we've discussed this. They may have the information, but okay, so how do you get past all that? How do you protect yourself and get past all that and free yourself from this matrix? Well, that he doesn't know how to do, because he just has the information, and basically, again, he's a salesman. These people have become salesmen, and they talk about history and things and events and etc., whatever it is, but they've become salesmen because it's a business world. And so they fall into that too. So they live a good life for a while, but eventually they don't know where they're going or what life is about. They've just been a salesman their whole lifetime. And because people have been trained and indoctrinated to become salesmen too, well, it's like everybody's a salesman, so this is what we do. But now you have the chance to see that there's more. And as you go through these experiences, you have comparison, and you decide, what you're going to figure out, what you're going to really see. So we're not here to disrupt the system. Again, you have free will, but when it comes to the Kalam God, he's not concerned about free will. The Kalam God already knows he's buried in karma and all this, and he doesn't care because he's fine with creation, okay? Doesn't care. So, he's going to deal with cause and effect. People are going to rebel. People are going to try and kill him. So he deals with cause and effect all the time. He's used to it. So this is where he uses his arrogance and is willing to, confront these things and have a battle or whatever. So he's constantly dealing with himself like everybody else is. But until he decides different, he's happy with that position. He likes the battle. He likes the conquering. He likes to destroy others, you see? Yeah, so it's the place is a little bit nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is one big madhouse here. Okay, well, we've reached that time where it's now the end of the show. So I'd like to thank you very much, Duane, for all your insights and answering all the questions and such.
Happy new birthday, Val.
Grazie.
That was German. It wasn't French.
Gracias. Dankeschön.
Thank you, Kevin, everybody. It's quite a show. You kids are fun, and you're making history. Thank you very much for the question. So I can see that you're perking up a bit. And, Kevin, you really pay attention, and you got your parents going here, so you're getting them in trouble, too. Good for you. Thank you so much. Because all we do is get in trouble in this world, and then we got to deal with it, right? So, but we're waking up. That's the best part. We'll see you next time. Thank you.